Hello, my name's Maxine, and I'm one of the trainers at the International College of Professional Celebrants, and I'm also a professional celebrant. And I'm here with my lovely team at the International College of Professional Celebrants.
There's a lot of words saying the International College of Professional Celebrants.
It certainly is.
I too am a member of the training team and the operations director for ICPC, as I shall now call it. And I'm also a professional civil celebrant.
Hi there, and I'm Rebecca. I'm the training director and a trainer for the ICPC and a professional celebrant in my own right as well.
And I'm Mike, and I'm also one of the trainers at ICPC and a professional celebrant.
So we're here to talk about one of our favourite subjects, aren't we, which is love. And when we train people, when we open the training day, that's something that we talk about a lot, isn't it? It's a real beautiful lead into the celebrancy career. And people might sort of scratch their heads and think, is it? Because there's lots of different things, but I think at the heart of everything we do is love. And so I think a good place to maybe start with is weddings, because I think that's the most obvious, isn't it? So Mike, what's your view on love in celebrancy and in particularly weddings?
Well, I think it's really a very special time, and it's quite an obvious, like you said, it's quite an obvious ceremony and a celebration, because you are celebrating together with everybody that is present, all of the guests. You're celebrating the love of two people. And it's lovely to be able to look back where they first met and tell their story up to that point. And then it's that celebration of that time where you are celebrating the love and the promises between two people as they make their vows, and also thinking about the future going forward. So it's also a celebration of the future together, which is it's lovely to be part of, not just as a celebrant, but also to be watching as the guests there. I suppose they're actually as witnesses to those promises.
I think you're right, because it's just, sometimes you think it's really obvious that it's just the love between the couple. And I'm going to ask Rebecca in a minute. So I'm priming you, Rebecca, about the ways as a wedding celebrant we can help people express that love. But it is also about the families, isn't it, Mike? So I think, when at the beginning of ceremonies, was very careful to include people in that opening, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really important that everyone feels included, right from the start, that you welcome everybody in and that they feel part of it. And so it's really important, even right from the very start, that you engage with all of those present and make them just feel that they are taking part in that very special ceremony, that it's not just something that they're observing, but they are entering into a time where they are together with that couple. And I love some of the rituals at ceremonies for weddings that you can do to bring and involve the guests in to that. So, there's all sorts of special rituals. There's blessing of the rings. There's hand time, where you can bring members of their family and their friends together to really take part.
So I think as I prompted Rebecca to do this, we'll ask her to probably tell us a little bit more. Thank you for that, Mike. It's about the different ways that we can, help couples declare their love for one another, make their vows, and share that love with the family. So, Rebecca, what have been some of your favourite things that at your weddings where you've helped people do those things and shared the love?
Yeah, share the love. Well, I think there are lots of different ways that you can do it, and it really does depend on the couple, doesn't it, and how they interact with their family and friends. But normally there's such a lot of joy at the wedding that you think, oh yeah, let's capture this for them as a couple. So there are lots of ways. There are the rituals that Mike mentioned, but there are also ways of, you can get family and friends to make their vows to the couple, to share the love from them to the couple. So that's a really lovely way of doing that. You can also you can include grandparents and siblings in different ways without them having to get up. So you you mentioned the blessing of the wedding rings, so you can do that.
Yeah.
But other ways that I've done it is where I've got everybody in the all of the guests to show their love to the couple. So when I say let's show them some love, they literally just go mwah like that. Wonderful way. When you've got 100 people doing that for the couple and you've kept it as a surprise, and then they feel, oh, this is just really lovely. It creates a lovely energy. But also what I really like is when you can hold space just quietly for the couple and everybody's in that moment. So when they share their vows, and there's this sort of silent, and you can sort of feel this silent hug around them as they share their vows. That's really beautiful.
Yes.
And I think actually I love a love story. I don't know about you. I think one of the most lovely things about being a wedding celebrant is being able to hear their love story and share it with their guests, because there's laughter, there are gasps, the handkerchiefs come out, you can get different people involved in the story, because quite often couples are out with friends when they meet, and their friends have persuaded them to go out on a rainy night and they wouldn't have, and all of a sudden they bump into their beloved. And we can also use, there's some really good ways that people can talk about their love without being very personal, aren't there, Julie? And some of the things that we do are around sourcing poems and readings.
In my experience, one of the things I love about the weddings I've taken is that love comes in many forms. There is the traditional male, female, young love, of which, of course, we do see, but equally so, we also see people from different cultures who are getting married to people from another culture, and we're able to take the love and content of that culture and what's significant to them and marry it with the other culture in a real celebration of love between the two families, as well as their cultures, as well as the couple. We have older couples, we have same-sex couples, we have couples who have had a difficult journey, and this is the culmination of overcoming those problems. What a privileged position we are in to be able to hold that space, as Rebecca said, and make something magical happen for the rite of passage that they will never forget. It actually makes me feel emotional even thinking about it. My heart bursts sometimes when I am with a couple and the love is so tangible and real. And the other thing I really love is getting them in the beginning, once the couple have entered and we've done a lovely welcome, like Mike said, and you make everyone feel loved and at home and relaxed, is to let that couple share in the content. Let them look out into their loved ones and their friends and their family, and not just have their backs like a traditional position, so they're sort of cut off. Yes. And then conversely, as Rebecca was saying, that when they come together in front of you for that intimate moment of promises and vows that they want to make to their partner, how precious is that, to give them that wonderful moment. Honestly, the love is absolutely bursting out of every pore during those ceremony moments. So yes, I can't remember what your question was, but
That's all right. That's fine. I'm going to put it to Rebecca, actually, because I think from the four of us, Rebecca is the passionate one about the poems, I think could you sort of talk about that, Rebecca, and how poetry and readings can be used to express love as well in a ceremony?
Yeah, well, poems and readings, and we all love reading different things, don't we? And there are certain things that couples hold dear. They might have heard something from when they were a child that they've always thought, when I get married, I want that reading or that poem when I get married, and they've held that in their hearts. So the words mean something to them, and it could be something much more recent that has been written that suddenly just hits home. And I think poetry and readings, it's the words that touch the heart. And you know, when you read something, you think, yes, that reflects what I feel for this person who's standing next to me. That reflects the love, the happiness, and the joy, and the sentiment as well. So I think poems and readings, they bring a lovely extra dimension to the ceremony, and other people can join in as well, so they can do the readings. It's not just the celebrant or doing all of it, and it's a lovely way to include people as well, if they want to. So I think, yeah, that's that extra dimension, the meaning behind the words, and it kind of expresses something that perhaps they wouldn't have been able to write themselves.
And then I guess, talking about weddings, quite often after there's been a wedding, there are new people coming into families, and that might be a baby, it might be a naturally conceived baby, it might be an adopted child, and that's that is a product of love and love in itself, isn't it? So it's a couple or even single parents. There's lots of different circumstances into which you or your loved ones or your family could be welcoming a new person into the world. So tell me a little bit more about that, Julie, about naming ceremonies and the different aspects of love there.
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is that there has been a revolution in celebrant-led ceremonies in the last few years. And whereas things used to be years ago sort of done quite discreetly, done sort of behind closed doors, like an adoption ceremony, for instance, there was no rite of passage to celebrate that years ago. And now there is. And we can have a look at involving that new person into a family and use ritual, as Mike was talking about, to really symbolically strengthen and pronounce that new relationship. There's many new ceremonies where people who are changing gender and have a new identity. What a beautiful, beautiful way than having a celebrant-led ceremony to celebrate that, to show the world, this is the new me, this is my identity, this is what I am celebrating. And it's like a rebirth, it's like a naming ceremony for a baby, but it's this new person that maybe has had quite a long journey, probably has in all likelihood, had a long journey at arriving at that point. And there we are to celebrate the love, their friends, their family, of this new identity. So yes, celebrancy in the last, I think, probably 5 to 10 years has really developed to mark the rites of passage that we have and want to mark in love. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely, because I think namings is a really interesting one, because as you said, there are so many ways and so many you can name objects, like people who, for example, if you're going to do a boat naming ceremony, even people, if you think beyond people, that somebody could have labored for years and years over this and invested lots of money, so there's an emotion attached to that, there's a recognition attached to that, and I think namings help people in a way recognize their place in society as well, and affirm their importance, and it's an affirmation, isn't it, of that love. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it shows love in lots and lots of different ways, which is lovely. So we are going to talk about funerals. Before we do that, I want to talk about everlasting love and love that's gone through highs and lows. And we celebrate that, really, don't we, when people come and renew their vows to each other, Mike?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a vow renewal is a beautiful occasion, isn't it? Where you can involve so many of your friends to mark an occasion years that have gone by, but to celebrate that journey, like you said, it's Maxine, it's very much that there's been highs and there's been lows through that journey, and love, the path of love is not always as smooth as maybe you had planned. Things happen, but it's that strength of love, that relationship that sticks together beyond all of what comes their way. And I think a vow renewal is a wonderful opportunity for a couple to publicly declare, like they did many years earlier at their wedding, the vows and the love that still exists and the strength that's there. And what I love about that is the fact that you're either reaffirming your promises that you made. You may be reading exactly the same vows that you made all those many years ago, or you may be publicly announcing new promises to one another, and that you are sharing that amongst your family or your dear ones, your friends there. And it's a very special occasion. And a lot of couples don't choose to do it. They don't choose to celebrate those significant milestones in their marriage. But when people, and I think it's becoming more and more popular, people choose to actually say, let's mark this occasion with our family there. And it's lovely when members of the family have also been at the wedding and they've stuck through those times together. And it's a wonderful occasion and a total privilege as a celebrant to be helping them and guiding them through that wonderful ceremony.
I agree, absolutely. And I found that there's much more emotion in a renewal of vows, because there's more of a story there. And when couples renew their vows, to me they feel more intense than they do at a wedding, because there's, it's palpable, you can really feel it. And then they're also, a really good excuse for a party, aren't they? A renewal of vows. And it's lovely to see. I think it's a really good one where friends get involved, because they will have supported the couple who are renewing their vows to one another. They could be renewing their vows to their family as well. So it's, again, we're kind of surrounded by love in our job, aren't we? It's a real great privilege, I think, and that's the right words. So I'm going to move on now to funerals, and I think in funerals, love can be shown in many different ways in a funeral. So actually, I'm going to go back to you, Mike, and to talk to me about love at funerals.
Well, I think that a funeral is a lovely opportunity to really celebrate a person's life, and it's just such a privilege to be able to be helping that ceremony happen, where you can bring people in from sadness, and it is a sad time, but you can also help people to make that transition to a celebration within that ceremony. It's a time to honor their loved one. It's a time to say thank you to them, and it's even though it is quite overwhelming at times as a funeral, and they've planned a lot, to be able to just dedicate that time holding that space for their loved one and for everyone there, and being able to express their love and their gratitude. So everything that you say within a funeral is very much it's words of thanks and it's words of gratitude, and it's just being able to say, look, we've come here to mark this person's life and the amazing impact. There is a love story there, Maxine, isn't there, too? Because throughout someone's life, they loved people, they loved someone. And that is a celebration to be able to say that they loved you and you loved them. So the whole thing is wrapped up in love. And absolutely. I suppose when you think about what grief is, it is the way that we are handling that love, how we find that the absence of them in our lives difficult because of the love that we had, that bond. You know?
I think you're absolutely right. And I kind of going to come to Rebecca for this because, not all funerals are about somebody who's had a long and fulfilling life. There are, as celebrants, we find that we can be in situations where it's more difficult, isn't it? And there's still the love there, but it's, it can be very, very painful for what we would call a difficult death.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think with the price of love is grief, isn't it? And but for people who have died earlier than expected, or for children, it's also the shock.
Yes.
But in that shock, it just shows how much love there was for that person. And as celebrants, we are responsible for helping people through that time, as Mike said, in that short period of time you got in a funeral. But there are so many ways of expressing love, even through the shock. Again, there are readings, there are actions that you can do in the chapel or wherever they're having the funeral. That means that you are helping them through that ritual of saying goodbye. So you're helping to move people from one position to that position where they're able to say, goodbye at that point. But you're also reminding them that the love doesn't stop then. The love carries on. And it's helping them to realize that they're responsible for the legacy of that love and to help that carry on. So, it's you're very responsible as a celebrant in a funeral for helping people with that.
Thank you. And I want to talk about funerals a little bit more because they are very special in a way. And there are some lovely moments, aren't there, Julie, when you think I've really captured it. When you talk to the family, or when you write a eulogy, or when you're actually delivering it, there's something a bit special about those moments of love in the room, aren't there?
There is, and I think that comes back down to the ICPC training, in as much as we teach people how to interview well, how to find that love, that communication, that story. We teach them how the different questioning techniques to elicit all the information that's going to be essential to help them with that transition and to express that love. The moment you know that's succeeded is when people hold you at the end or hold your hand and say, you captured them, you knew them. Did you know them? It seems like you knew them. And if you can get that response, where you really feel like they have represented the deceased well and honored them in a really respectful and loving way, then that's success. That's a successful ceremony. That's a successful use of your skills. The other kind of comment you might have at the end of a ceremony might be not from the immediate family, but from guests who've come who say, I've never been to a funeral like that before.
Yeah.
Which you can quite honestly say, there's never been one like that before. It's only about, and whoever the name is, the name of the deceased. So that's how special what we can do as celebrants, what the special things that we can bring that will help people through that journey of grief and help them really feel like they have done a proper, respectful, fond farewell to their loved ones. And we also, of course, present them with a script of everything we've created, all the poems, all the words of the committal, the words of the welcome even. And they have got that to look back on. Now, years ago, that didn't happen. The funeral was there, it was gone, it was never recorded in any way, shape or form. Now, we have those moments recorded in a beautiful script, maybe even a video recording, and you can revisit saying goodbye. And because we say goodbye many, many times, don't we, in grief? We don't say it just once when the person's dead. We don't just say it the second time when it's a funeral. We revisit that goodbye many times, maybe never stop revisiting it when it's been someone really close to us. So to have those special things which show how much love there was in that ceremony for that person, my goodness, that makes a difference.
It does. And I'm going to go around each of you in turn and ask you for some recollections of some ceremonies or services that have struck you. I'm going to give you two to start off with. My very first funeral, and this is really about the love for the deceased, if you want, or the couple. Mine was being struck by the different ways that people show love. So the first funeral service I ever did was of quite a no-nonsense woman who was mucking out her daughter's horse the day before she died. And she wasn't the kind of mum who would hug her daughters and tell them that she loved them all the time. She wasn't that kind of person. She was a lady who did everything and just got on with it. And she baked and gave people cakes and things. So although outwardly she would never be somebody who said, I love you, the amount of love that she had for the people around her, and especially for her daughters, was amazing. And when you go back to the questioning technique, Julie, if you hadn't been armed with that, I probably wouldn't have got to that level of understanding about this woman, nor being able to tell her story. And the other one was that I did a funeral for a guy who was an alcoholic at the time that he died. And, you know, he was estranged from his family, but I spoke to his sister and I helped her write a eulogy which referred to his life when he was a child. And it was about sort of saying to everybody, you know, he was young once, he was innocent once. I loved him as my brother. And I think that helped where there was a lot of angst in the room. And I'm not saying that made it go away, that people just thought a little bit more about him and his circumstances and where he came from. So those are the two things that really, really stick with me about showing love in different ways and showing how people feel about the deceased and who that person really was. Who'd like to go and share an example with me?
Yeah, I don't mind going next. One of my very first ceremonies I did was for a gentleman. When I turned up to the family meeting, everyone was laughing and everyone was very jolly. So I wasn't expecting that. So I waited to assess the situation and see where the grief was, or was it being hidden, or I really tried to play it very, very calm and talk them through. And basically the message I had from everybody there was that nobody liked him. They're glad he was gone. He had no friends. He did the dirt on everybody. And they're just going to go through this ceremony with some basic details. That was quite a difficult interview because finding some gems to honour this gentleman was quite difficult. Anyhow, I managed to write the ceremony, and during the actual delivery of that funeral, everything that nobody was shedding a tear. I went through the ceremony as giving it as much warmth and affection as I could. And we got to the stage of the committal. And as the curtains closed, somebody shouted at the back, "I loved you, Len."
No,
It absolutely broke me. Because I loved him, and yet there was. See what a mess I am already. It did. It took me aback that man was loved. I was really glad she was there and shouted that.
no, it's wonderful.
How lovely.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Lovely. Yeah, I did. There's a couple that come to mind for me. One was a 6-year-old girl, and she was in a hospice, and she wanted to talk about her funeral before she died, and she was just beautiful little thing in terms of her. She was just very matter of fact. She wanted a Disney funeral, and you know, she knew the music she wanted and a little story and all of that. And of course, when it came to doing her funeral, I felt very much part of it. I met the family and, you know, all of that, and it was a lovely funeral. I mean, incredibly sad, but it's one that sticks with me because I was dressed as Snow White and the funeral director was dressed as Woody, and the pallbearers were dressed as Pluto and Goofy. So that's one that really sticks with me. But the love for her in the room was just, incredible. And then another one was for a couple that I'd married, and she was, the bride was terminally ill. And so I got to talk to her about her funeral before she died as well. And again, it did mean that, I felt very much part of everything that was going on. And I became friends with her in between the wedding and the funeral. But it was lovely to be able to then deliver a funeral that she very much wanted, that she knew, she had said, I want this and this and this, and I was able to do that for her. So yeah, full of love.
Thank you. Mike, have you got anything that springs to mind, any memories?
Yeah, I think it's funny because different funerals can have a different feel. Sometimes they're very positive and it's a real celebration, and others can be quite solemn, and you don't really necessarily, it can catch you unawares sometimes, that even when you meet with the family, they might say they want a celebration, but on the day, they might come in and actually, because of the emotion, and they are very sad naturally, and it's about adapting to that, and being able to sort of run with it. And that happened to me. That's when it was my very first funeral that I ever did. And the deceased, the widow there that I spoke to, and the family, they wanted a celebration. And exactly that happened, that when they entered on the day, their whole, everything changed. And I found it very difficult to actually celebrate. But we shared the love, we shared his story, we shared the importance of him and his person, what he was like, his real essence. And I did my very best to do it. But it was funny, I wasn't getting all the smiles and the laughs. But you know what? Right at the very end, and I thought, oh no, it's been a disaster, And I came out as you do. I led the way. And then the main family member, the family member, the wife, came out, and I thought she was going to walk straight past me, but instead she came straight to me and she held my arms. And even though she had tears in her eyes, she looked straight into my soul. It was like that. And she held onto my arm and gripped me, and she said, "My dear," she said, "if it hadn't have been for you, I couldn't have done this today." And it was just so, it spoke to me. And I think that was the bit when I realized that actually my purpose as a celebrant is not necessarily all of the meetings and all the writing. It's about delivering something that's meaningful to people. And it's about sharing that with other people. And it suddenly made me realize, with all of the hours of practice and writing ahead of that funeral, it was my first one, and I spent hours on it because I've never done it before. And when I realized that that was the reason why I was doing it, and it was the big why am I doing it, it then all fitted into place. So after that, I realized the purpose of being a celebrant and what I was needing to show and to do. So that was lovely. But I think another slightly more joyous occasion was a gentleman, a dad who was absolutely loved within his family. And we had a double ceremony booked, as in a double slot. So we had loads of time on our hands to really celebrate this man and how important he was as a husband, as a dad, as a granddad. He was so lovely. And I remember talking and it was lovely to be able to personalize a ceremony. And on this occasion, and I've shared it with Julie before, and she sort of done something fairly similar, where I was listening to the family, and the eldest daughter said, we want to put notes on his cardboard coffin. We want to either write notes or stick notes. But I do not want to put these notes in the funeral home. I didn't want to stick them all on and spend an hour sticking them all over his coffin. And so I was taking note of that. But then I'd also listened earlier on, and it's important, isn't it, to listen as a celebrant, that he loved colour. He was a hippie, basically, and he loved butterflies. And as a result of that, I then sort of paused for a moment and I said, I've got an idea. Do accept this. Whoops. I don't know what that is. and I said, hang on a moment. I've got a thought of how we can do this. And we created a unique ceremony called a butterfly ceremony. And I was really proud of myself. But we got these little butterflies that were origami butterflies. And we made time in the ceremony to play a piece of music, write a beautiful, some notes and some memories from each of the mourners. They then went up after the committal to stick them on the side of the coffin that was very empty, very plain. It was a cardboard coffin. But when they stuck these 3D origami butterflies all over it, there were 200 of them, and it took me two loops round the song to actually stick them all on. It looked stunning, and I was so pleased. And the family and all the friends said that was so special, and it all enabled them all to partake, all to say goodbye, all to share their memories, and it went with him. So it was very special.
Lovely.
Thank you, Mike. That's a wonderful, wonderful story. And I think what I get from you when you're telling that story is your love for being a celebrant. And I am going to ask you all, because we do love what we do, and we love it so much that we love to train people in what we do. It's just an amazing career that is fulfilling. So I will kick off to give you time to think about it. I guess I love several things about it. I think I love a love story. To me, when you go into a room, be it with a couple, be it for a naming, be it for renewal of vows or a funeral service, you're always looking for the love. And for me, when you hit that or you capture that moment, because people are so different and love is expressed in so many different ways, I just feel elated, if you want. It's a really fantastic thing when you think, I've got it, and I can do what I need to do, as you said, Mike. And I think the second one is the kind of the love in the celebrant community. And we have during the week when we're training people, there's all sorts of stories that are going on and running throughout. People have come from different backgrounds. And what I'm always struck by is the love and the support in the room that helps people. They kind of found their tribe, and almost they come feeling not safe and thinking and leave thinking, I didn't know there were so many wonderful, caring, supporting people in the world, because their background and their journeys haven't necessarily been full of them. And I think the love and the support and the kind of non-competitiveness that carries on from, during the week and throughout afterwards in our celebrant communities, on our Facebook pages, in our professional development, all of that stuff is the reason why I'm here, because I really, really feel that when I'm with you guys and when I'm with all of our delegates on our courses. So I think that's what I love the most. Rebecca, what about you?
I think you're absolutely spot on with in terms of the family, the network that we've got. The collaboration is superb. But in terms of personally, about being a celebrant, it's just the joy. So I use the word love a lot, but the joy of being a celebrant, joy of being part of those special moments is just, I don't know, it just fills my heart with joy. I wake up every single morning going, yeah, I'm gonna go to work. This is work. It's just such a fabulous thing to be involved in these special moments in people's lives. And I can't, the joy literally goes poof out of me.
That comes out of your cheeks, doesn't it? Here somewhere.
That's what these are full of.
No, full of cheeks, full of love.
Yeah. So it's just everything about celebrancy that I absolutely love. And I eat it, drink it, sleep it, dream it, live it.
You certainly do. Julie, what do you love about celebrancy?
Well, I can echo quite a lot of what has already been said, but I think that one other thing I'd like to add is that for me, the great part of what I do is I can make a difference. So having that where you make a difference in somebody's lives, and it is a definite impact and an improvement. It probably stems back to when I trained as a teacher, and I could see that development in children I was teaching or adults I was teaching. And now I can see it both in the role of a trainer to share my knowledge and love of celebrancy, but also in carrying out ceremonies and making a difference to people's lives. That's what's fulfilling. That's what makes it every day, as Rebecca said, every day a joyful day. When you're waking up and you're going to go to a wedding, in which case you're going to make the most happiest day. What's not to love? And even if you're going to do a special funeral, how rewarding is it? Those are the things I love.
Thank you, Julie, and I absolutely couldn't agree more. Mike, what do you love most?
I think about being a celebrant, I think I just love people, really. I love finding out about people. I love building relationships with people and getting to know them and really doing my very best. I worked in education for 25 years and I loved that role. I loved being a teacher and helping both children and adults, in their development, like Julie said. And it's a real privilege to be able to be a trainer with the ICPC, because actually I can still use my skills as a teacher in a remarkable way to be able to help others and share that love of celebrancy with others on their journey. And that is a great privilege for me in my role. As a celebrant, I think as a celebrant, it's very special. There is a special quote that says, the best things in life are the people that you love, the places that you've seen, and the memories that you've made along the way. And I sort of think in my role as a celebrant, I am bringing that out. I am thinking about, the best things in the life of the people that people have met, the love couple, the children, at a funeral, the people that you love, and the places that you've seen, their journey, their remarkable life, and also the memories that you've made along the way. And I think my job is very much about creating meaningful memories, events, and enabling that to be a memory that they look back on and reflect and think, yeah, that was a lovely time. All right, whether it's whatever ceremony that was. So that's, I think, as a celebrant, that's me.
Thank you, Mike. Now, I was going to end with the Beatles quote about all you need is love, but I actually think you topped me on your quotation. And I think you've you have beautifully summarized, I think, what our job is all around. So I'd love to thank you all very much. This has just been, I'm feeling warm and lovely now after this conversation about love. So I'd like you to thank you all. I'd like to thank me too. I'd like to thank you all for joining me and sharing the love. Thank you.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.